If you would like to earn CPE credit for listening to the show, visit earmarkcpe.com/FPA. Download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. Finally, if you enjoy listening to FP&A today, please go to your podcast platform of choice, click the subscribe button, and leave a rating and review of the show. And now, on to the show.
From Data Rails, this is FP&A Today.
Welcome to FP&A Today. I'm your host, Glenn Hopper. I'm excited to introduce our guest this week, David Fortin. David is a chartered professional accountant from Quebec, Canada. He started his finance journey in auditing at PwC before making a successful leap to FP&A back in 2019. His first FP&A role was with Ubisoft, the video game company behind hit franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Just Dance, and Rainbow Six. From Ubisoft, David moved to a Saas startup called Polka, where he managed FP&A and also played a pivotal role in securing the company's Series B funding and worked them through a successful M&A exit in 2023. Now, he's changing his expertise into teaching Excel and Microsoft Copilot on his YouTube channel and LinkedIn, earning rave reviews for his engaging and practical approach. Let's dive into David's inspiring journey and insights. David, welcome to the show.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you for having me, man. It's really nice being here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So let's go ahead and dive in. I love your background. I kind of wish I had done this. If I could go back and tell my young self something to do, I would have loved to have started out with CPA and audit and just have that experience, because my experience with it has been, just coming up straight through the FP&A side. And I really think that's a great way to round it out. So you started your career at Big Four at PwC before coming to FP&A. And I guess since you started your career on one trajectory, what motivated you to make that switch? And to my earlier point, how did your auditing experience prepare you for your role in FP&A?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started in audit just like a lot of accountants in my space, in my circle at school and stuff. So I really loved doing audit. It was cool. It was challenging. As you may know, it was a really long hours though. We're working a lot, being with presidents of company, VPs of company, really at a really young age. But I always loved video games, and I'm in Quebec City, which is a small town kind of in Canada, and there's not much work. It was pre-COVID, so you could not work like remote from everywhere. So I was just looking at jobs. I was not looking for a leap into FP&A, but I always thought that graphs and charts, and I felt like I was more of a business guy, let's say, instead of like journal entries and typical accounting stuff. So I was looking for jobs at Ubisoft because I really wanted to be in a company that I love, that I enjoyed their products. I feel like it's way easier when you love the company to actually love your job and enjoy it and put like 200% efforts into it. So that's why I tried, or actually I wanted to transition from actually accounting, typical accounting, to FP&A. And it was just a matter of like, it just happened like that. I wasn't chasing an FP&A opportunity. It's just that was the job that was open. So I just applied there, and I felt like my experience in the Big Four, they really train you to be ready for kind of anything. As I just said, you talk to a president, you're like 22 years old, you don't understand anything about accounting, and you're in there talking to president of companies, asking about their financial statements and their budgets and all of that, their BPR. I felt like it was a logical trajectory for me to follow.
In FP&A, obviously, we're very focused on the income statement, but you have to have the three statement model and the understanding of the way, what happens on the income statement, the way it flows through to the other financial statements. Did you find that your background in accounting and audit gave you more of a full picture understanding? Was that helpful to you in some ways?
Well, yeah, 100%. First thing is that I saw kind of a lot of clients in like 3 year space. So I actually started in a video game company as an auditor. So it gave me some ideas of what you can do, and like how the companies were structured internally. So hey, I saw this graph at a specific place. Let's replicate it at Ubisoft. When I I entered in my FP&A role. So it gave me a lot of idea, a lot of financial reflexes. Like I was helping the technician there with the reconciliation, the bank reconciliation. I was helping her a lot because I had seen so many in previous companies, which I could not have done, I think, if I got on straight up, like straight from school. So yeah, I feel like it was really helpful on top of developing my reflexes of like managing multiple projects at once. When you're in audit, you're working on 3 clients at once. That's why you work 70 hours a week, and this workflow keeps coming and coming at you. So yeah, I feel like it was really helpful.
First FP&A role at Ubisoft, and then so that's a big company, obviously. But then you moved to Polka,
Yeah.
and you're now in startup world. So that's that feels like a big shift. So I'm wondering, and maybe relative to big company, but just in general, what were some of the when you moved into the SaaS startup world? What were
Mhm.
some of the unique challenges that you faced? Was there a different approach that you had to take to budgeting and forecasting in a startup space versus a big
Yeah.
going
Oh man,
company?
there's so much to say. There's so much to say here. When you're in a bigger company, you actually have a team. You have a BI team that can help you. You have a lot of data to play with, which is actually cool, but sometimes can be overwhelming as well. So you play with all these video games that came out like in 2001, and you have all of this data. So yes, it's a great play field. Like I can say that like that, but like it's a great place to be. But when you get in a smaller company, there are some other challenges. Sorry, everything is to be built. You get in there, their whole company is running on Excel, which was not the case at Ubisoft, of course. But then you get in there, it was an 80 employees company when I first got there. Just to give a little background on Polka, it's a SaaS company, software as a service. We sold licenses. It was an app for manufacturing world, connected workers 4.0 manufacturing world, just to give you a little bit background on the company. So it was really techie people, but I was kind of alone. Yes, we had a finance team, there was a budget in place, but in the startup world, the girl that hired me first, she left. Like she called me and she's like, Dave, and I worked with her at PwC before, so she hired me, and I don't know if it's because of me, but she left just two weeks. So she trained me for 2 weeks, and then she left, and she left me there with like this whole Excel. But she was also the person doing the HR, the legal, the FP&A, like 5 hours a week when she had the time. So that's another world. That's a different world, and you don't have that BI team. So you have to figure it out by yourself with the data you have, which you don't have much in a very small company. So you have to, you're very used to play with Tableau. Like I was so hyped, I had Tableau, I was doing cool stuff, but I get there and I'm back to Excel, and we were just buying Looker. So we bought Looker when we were Looker licenses. We didn't actually buy Looker, but yeah, we were very very rich. So yeah, so basically, I was trying to play on Looker, but then again, there's no like data hierarchy behind everything, so you don't have any access to data, and you don't have any team. So that was one challenge. So I really had to shift my mind of like, okay, I'm opening Tableau every day to just do pivot tables into Tableau, to okay, I'm back to Excel, back to square one, basically. So this really shifted my mind of like, I can do anything. I can be so much more creative and do some cool charts, and like learn as we go as to, okay, we're making a budget, we're sending it to VCs, and it might get denied, and they want us to do 20x instead of 10x this year. So that was the kind of challenges I was facing. And at the same time, it was really really cool, really challenging, but really really cool, because I was not on my own. I had a team, of course, but I had so much more. I don't know, I'll say that in English, but I could do so much more on my own. Like nobody was telling me what to do. Like they just trusted me. They're like, Dave, you can do this and that, and we trust you. Like we trust your expertise, and it's your job to go on Google and ask people like Glenn to get some help on FP&A, like harder stuff. Because I was still young, like I'm 30 years old right now, so I was 26 when I was there. So not a lot of experience. Like yes, PwC, yes, Ubisoft, long hours and all of that. But and that's one thing I was really afraid. I remember back then is like, how am I going to do it? Like how I'll do it? Like I don't know. I just do basic basic charts on Excel. It was a really, really, really different world. And I hope I answered your question here.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny as you're talking. It's one of the things I love about hosting this podcast is, we're such a niche group of nerds that I feel like we could be having this conversation like on bar stools and telling war stories, because very similar to you. So my first CFO role was a retail business that had 3 locations, was maybe doing around 3 to 4 million a year in revenue. And I left, and it was pretty much just me out of the gates. And I left a team. I was working in telecom, and I had a team of like 31 people working for me. And we had, I'm dating myself, but this is like in the year, this is in 2007, but had Crystal reports back then, which was huge. And we were, had SQL guys and everything. And we were doing some really cool stuff. And then I came to this very small company that was they had raised a seed round and they were looking to leverage and take on some debt. But what I thought was really beneficial was I saw the way that a finance department could run at a large company. And then I knew the way we were able to present financials. And then I saw this small company where they didn't have a monthly close when I got there. They were, basically their tax accountants were doing their books. That's how, small they were. And I guess maybe they'd do a quarterly close or something. But to take them, and we were able to raise significant funds after that. And I think that one of the reasons we were able to do that is we strove to make our financial reports look as clean and as detailed as at the big company. So it was kind of cool to take that and apply it at a small company. But of course, to do that, you have to find efficiencies. So you talked about you guys were bringing in Looker and trying to find ways that you could aggregate your data and get these bigger reports. Did you find that early on, your startup, so you don't have the staff you want, but and you're sort of self-directing, but you kind of know where you want to get with it. Did you find yourself leaning into technology more, or what were you doing to try to streamline processes?
Yeah, so that's a super great question. First of all, we were a kind of big finance team, like 6 people out of like 150 when I left. So kind of a big finance team, and we were really close together. Like we all worked at PwC. We basically emptied the big four accounting firm here, which PwC. So we're really similar minded people, and really that really helped me for the FP&A journey, because if your actuals are like, you can call straight up to the finance team and say, hey, what's this in the actuals? It helps you with your forecast, and it helps explaining to the CFO what's going on. But to jump on what you were saying, actually, when I got there, the Excel were all Excel, 100%, and we were just onboarding Looker. But one thing I actually did is trying to, because we were actually accounting the number of licenses we were selling all into Excel, and also the usage from our end users, so our customers. And one project that I got in is like, can we analyze which tool that we need next? Like, is it an FP&A tool that we need next? Is it a CPQ tool? So I started going to vendors, and we started having a look. So what's the next step for us? And like having this success, this team success at heart, and not being selfish, we ended up going with not an FP&A tool. We're not there yet because our data was kind of small still. So we went for the CPQ route. So we had an ERP, and then we onboarded the CPQ because the deal desk process was kind of hard. And then we hired someone from deal desk and stuff. Yeah, we're trying to leverage technology, but I was going all in on Excel as well. Like when I found out that XLOOKUP existed, it literally, I changed all of my workbook, and it literally changed my life, and with the sum ifs and stuff. So we're doing pretty cool stuff all with Excel. And we had a data guy, which was like, I would say, more advanced Excel, more into like Google script and all of that. So we could have help from him as well, because the company values, like, we're really like unified, solid team. That was pretty cool. But of course, technology is like, you need to embrace it. But I think it's not always the answer. Like sometimes you're just not there yet. I think we needed like to have a shorter closing sequence at the end of the month. So yeah, so that was the next step when I left. But of course, we onboarded a few tools. We tried some stuff. I remember we onboarded Inside Squared, which is a tool that plugs in onto your CRM, onto Salesforce, to give you some data insights and all of that. And they sell you all of this AI stuff. But we weren't there as a company. We didn't have enough data. So when you don't have a big sample, the projection and the predictions are not any good. So we ended up churning all of that. So we're testing stuff, but at the end of the day, we're trying to improve our process every day. And oh god, yeah, we did a lot of cool stuff as well.
So, and that's the other thing about startups. I know. So when you got there, I think you were just a few months into your role at Polka, and then you get informed that the company was going for its Series B,
Mm-hmm.
VC raise. And I think about, seed round, even A round, you can get away with, not exactly back of the napkin financials, but it can be, it's that startup pre-revenue, pre-cash flow kind of thing. And everything is
Yeah.
sort of based on, nested assumptions on top of each other. But by the time you get to Series B, they're pretty serious about
Mm-hmm.
how they're looking at your financials. And you have to really stand up, be able to back up your projections. So tell me a little bit about you walking into the company, being there just a couple months. This is happening, what your role was, what you learned from it, and kind of how you got through it.
Yeah, oh man, that was a journey. So I got there at September 8th, 2020. So just 8 months into the pandemic, fresh from Ubisoft. As I told you, my boss that hired me, she left. So I got there, she trained me for 2 weeks, and then we start. So I have to learn the company, and it's a budgeting session, or yeah. So it's budgeting time in October. So we do the whole budget. So I'm trying to learn all these new SaaS ratio. So name them like the CAC ratio, the DBNER, the net retention rate, the gross churn, all of that I was learning. So I was listening to Saas Startup podcast a lot back then during like my commute coming back home. So I go into the budget. I'm meeting everyone, the VP of sales to do my budget and all of that. And then the CFO, my boss, LP that I love still to this date, he's really cool. And he's like, Dave, we're going to this funding round in January of 2021. So I was 4 months in. I had to redo the whole budget, and then we started raising. So it was COVID. I think it was less crazy than before. I mean, they didn't have to fly. It was all distance and all of that. But I was really implicated into building our financials as we literally build the plane as we were flying it. Like literally, like we're developing our ratios, calculating, does it make sense to make it a trailing 12 average, or does it not make sense to do that? Reading a lot of blogs, Kel blogs, Saster, all of this. And we were just on Zoom nonstop, my boss and I, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, we kept it kind of quiet a little bit. And during the weekend, sometimes we had to work, but it was a teamwork. Of course, I wasn't alone, but I had to build all these decks, and I was literally jumping on the calls with the VCs, maybe like the second call. So the CEO and the CTO were going on the first call. I was coming in on the second call, and they wanted to, hey, can you share your screen with Excel and go through your financials? Which was cool is one thing that was cool is that we had great financials, so we're pretty healthy. Of course, we had a big cash burn, but we were into the phase like that. It was growth at all costs, pretty much, instead of like profitability, like it's more probably that right now. That was a easy way in. I would say it wasn't easy, but it was easier with these great financials. So my role was really to make sure to answer any question they might have, like why does your net retention rate goes up in the first quarter of 2019, which client was that, what's their AR, what's their revenue. So I had to be really well structured to answer any question. Of course, you can always come back, but you're at the process of selling. It's a sales pitch, right? So you have to be solid on your skates. That's what we say in French, like you have to be solid. You have to own your stuff, especially when you're new at a company. So it was a lot of presentation, meeting, people that sometimes didn't really care of you, like the SF people, and like they were just 2 feet on the table and asking you a question about your company. They got sent there. They didn't have a real interest in you. So that was a journey. That was pretty cool, and I have learned so much just having to be part of this Series B and having a serious role because, like, of course, I was the data guy. So if I wasn't there one day, like, it was my FP&A data. Of course, they could have done it without me, but I was the one that built every graph, every color I was putting in there, every bar chart, everything was me. So that was cool. That was a great role. Yeah.
And those meetings can feel like you're doing a PhD dissertation or something. It's great when
Yeah.
you have a track record and you show whatever your year-over-year growth is or whatever, and you have the data to back it up. But it was always, whether you're talking to potential investors, debt providers, the board, upper management, very nerve-wracking when you have to keep in your head all this data and understand
Hmm.
what your assumptions were and all that. And one trick I learned early on was don't give them everything in the in the
Yeah.
first shot, because there's always going to be someone. It's usually just one guy who's
Yeah.
just not even listening to you. He's just staring at a printed out copy of your of your budget, and he's like fixated on one thing, and then he wants to go like 3 levels deep.
Yeah.
So if you give them the high level and just be prepared for that guy as
Oh
you go
yeah.
through. But it is,
And
yeah.
and I think to jump on that, I think the preparation was actually, whenever we were doing board decks every quarter, and we had so many notes like below the slides just in case. And most of the time it was as well, like a BPR for us, a business performance review, like, okay, what happened during the last quarter, and really going deep down. And oh man, the CFO was so great. Like every time that was something wrong in my data, he could tell, Dave, what's that? And I could not answer, and I will go back to the drawing board. Like, it's crazy how experience is like it shows in high skilled people like that. So I learned so much to be actually prepared, and more prepared than less prepared. Because if they don't ask the question, fair enough. But if they ask and you have the question, you have the answer, then you're looking rock solid, and that's great.
It's great when you have a CFO who's that dialed in and is picking up on the very small things and being able to ask those questions. So that's always an added plus. A lot of times it can feel like you're just out there on your own
Yeah.
doing this. FP&A Today is brought to you by DataRails, the world's #1 FP&A solution. DataRails is the artificial intelligence-powered financial planning and analysis platform built for Excel users. That's right, you can stay in Excel. But instead of facing hell for every budget, month-end close, or forecast, you can enjoy a paradise of data consolidation, advanced visualization, reporting, and AI capabilities. Plus, game-changing insights giving you instant answers and your story created in seconds. Find out why more than 1,000 finance teams use DataRails to uncover their company's real story. Don't replace Excel, embrace Excel. Learn more at datarails.com. I know we talked a little bit before the show about sort of the perils of dealing with missed budgets, unexpected changes, kind of the stuff that goes along with being in the startup world. For you, does anything stand out as something you dealt with, or how you handled a particularly challenging situation? And if you have any strategies that you've used that you'd advise any of our other FP&A listeners for getting through these tough challenges that I know we've all faced.
Oh yeah, and everything can change, and I think it's true for any companies. But yeah, I had some Friday PM. It was 2 p.m. about to leave, and the VP of sales calls me like, "I'm not too sure about my forecast that we're going to present to the board on Monday. Let's change everything." And I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, and then we changed everything because he wasn't too sure, like VP of sales and stuff. So I go in, and it's all about how you structure your stuff. Like, I used to have a lot of scenarios, and all my stuff were kind of automated and stuff, so it was not too bad to change some slides. But that's one thing that happened. You send your budget to the board and then it get denied. completely. And I actually saw the whole team. I think the CTO was crying, no, legit. Like, it was December, and he was like, Jesus, I can't believe, because all the VCs were like, oh, it's not enough. Like, we want you to go from 100 to 400 employees this year. And they're like, Jesus, how are we going to do that? And we presented like aggressive ramp up, maybe 300, and it's not enough. And we have to redo the whole budget all over again. But I never get discouraged by that. I mean, sometimes I do, and I have another story about that. But um, I never get discouraged, because it's when you do and undo, like, it's because you're working, right? And it's not because I try to never take it personal. It's just a fast moving environment. And they told me when I joined, like, it's not going to be like as quiet as Ubisoft. Like, it's a roller coaster. And we're using Slack, and my CFO had actually a roller coaster next to his name, so it was known. But sometimes it's, even though, sometimes it's just hard. Like, I could feel the pressure on my shoulders, even though I wasn't the CTO or the CEO. It's you that's carrying the weight of like all these numbers, and it's like it needs to be changed, and we need to change everything. And when you change last minute, like, how many errors it can be. And I remember one day we're like revisiting the whole revenue strategy. So, like, are we targeting new region? Like, are we going Europe? Are you going Asia and stuff like that? Because it was kind of big company. And me and my previous CFO, we call that the June 3rd day, because it was June 3rd or something. And when I googled this day, it was like an emperor or a king that died this day. And it was the sales and the marketing that could not align. And we're just texting each other on Slack. It's, oh my god, this is June 3rd again. And so yeah, that's startup life. So I have really great souvenir, really great memories of that. But it can be really hard sometimes. And if people listen to us, and they can relate to what I'm saying right now, is just try to not care that much. I know it's hard. Like, I was biting all of my nails. I was stressed out, because it's changing, and you're like, oh my god, did I make a mistake? Am I good in my projections and stuff? So yeah, try to not care too much. And I think it's something I started early in my career. Same thing at PwC when I was in audit. Try to not care too much. You did a mistake in your auditing procedures or whatever. It's fine. You'll make it through. It's not your company. Like, you got this covered. You're good. So yeah.
Your background has been, talk about trial by fire. You go, you're still relatively new to FP&A when all this happens, but you go through the fundraising. And then I know another part of your career is I think you said it was in 2023, you're one of the first employees that finds out about this
Yeah.
potential merger. And before we give away the ending there, but due diligence is its own beast. I mean, it's potentially more difficult than the fundraising, because you're getting uh, you're the acquirer or the person that you're merging with. The due diligence that they're doing is they're picking up every rock and looking under it. So you've got to be really tight in everything you do. And I know that goes to the accounting side as well, depending on who's
Mhm.
acquiring whom. But tell me a little bit about the M&A activity and what your role was in that.
Yeah, so I remember it was somewhere around March of 2023 or something like that. And the CEO comes in and is like, Dave Felix, which was the director of finance, in my office, and we're actually five only that knew what's going on. And he's like, hey, blah blah blah, there's an M&A on the table, and I don't want you to tell anyone. And I was like, oh, cool, but am I working to lose my job in a few months? Which is, it's kind of scary when you think about that. It's a bit inception. You're working very hard to maybe you got fired. You just don't know. Maybe it's not going to work. Maybe it's going to be a lot of work for nothing. So yeah, we started the journey. And then you question everything that you made. Like, is this accurate? Are my numbers right? Am I following the right ways of accounting stuff? So my role was really more into the beginning, I would say, because I was really into FP&A straight. I wasn't doing nothing about taxes, nothing about accounting itself. Yes, I have financial statements knowledge, but it was not like my specialization. So when it came to the due diligence, we really had the team on our side with all the taxes, because we're selling to different states as well. So that's a little bit more complicated. So they were taking care of that. But anything I could help, like the projection of the sales, what happened when the client churned 5 years ago, I was the go-to guy. So I was making all of the charts for the financial, so more of the KPI, cash burn and everything. So that was my role, kind of. But it was also answering many questions. So when there was like more people in the race, until it got to the actual due diligence where there was only one person, so it was my role to like, oh, it's 6 p.m., I'm about to leave. Oh no, you don't leave right now, we have 20 questions that just came in and you have to answer. And as it kept going, it was easier and easier, I think, because we answered some question, and we could reuse the form, not the formulas, but the answers and stuff. So my role was really to be there, because I had a really great knowledge of the company as well. Being in FP&A, you talk to every department. That's another strength that we have. So, oh, what happened there? And we kind of have a small sample of clients, so it was kind of easy to remember what happened. And so I was the guy to tell the stories, and like, oh, I think this happened and that, and we could data check, and oh yeah, that's true, it makes sense, and then we could answer. So I was the go-to guy for a lot of stuff, from bringing out the contracts on Google Drive from like the past employee of the first day the company just started, to answering the high level financial question, to preparing the decks, preparing some random decks as well, like only 3, 4, 5 slides with 15 hidden slides as well, just in case. As I was saying, you have to over prepare, because once again, it's a pitch sale, and now that's the real pitch sales, like that's the real game. So it again, it can be really stressful, and you're in those meeting with the CEO, the CTO, and every important people, the acquiring CEO and stuff. And like, I remember at one time I did a joke and everybody laughed, but the CEO didn't laugh, my CEO. And I was like, he told me after, he's like, that was close to be like a really bad joke. I was like, oh no, no, but that was fine. That was fine. I was really close to the guy, and everybody laughed. And but it's going almost on the edge, and it was a little bit stressful. So yeah, it was a great journey overall.
With your background, so you were, I mean, in the startup world, everything is so fast paced. You're exposed to so many things all at once. And so you're in the battlefield, you're in the foxhole. Then you have the exit from Polka, and you've made a career transition at this point. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So thank you for the question. So that's
Yeah.
the journey. As you can see, I can't stop smiling. But on February of 2023, I started actually making Excel videos, because I saw on the internet Miss Excel, Kat Norton, that is doing some TikTok about Excel. And I'm a huge gamer guy, and I always been into the videos, filming myself on Twitch. So I was like, hey, maybe I could give it a shot, because I don't see myself like keeping gaming nonstop. I don't feel like I add value to the society. And so I started my YouTube channel. I called it the Piggy Bank Accountant, which was brainstorming with the CEO of Polka. Once again, we're like chilling, and he's like, what about the Piggy Bank Accountant? And I was like, dude, sounds cool. And I started doing videos, and then the M&A happens. We sell the company in June, and I was honest discussion with my boss. I was like, I'm not sure if I want to get into this journey. He's like, it's a ride, like if we're gonna change everything, there's gonna be new process, new boss, like new everything. Do you want to keep going? And I straight up said, maybe it's the end of it. Like, I didn't go sneaky. That's the kind of relationship I had with them. As you can tell, I really love these guys, and they taught me so much, and I'm really grateful for that. So it started from there. So I was like, okay, guys, this is my 2 month notice. Like, let's transfer everything over, and then you guys can go on that new journey, and I'll do my things. So obviously I got a small package from the transaction. I had some stock options and everything. Anyways, so it gave me a leeway to like try my stuff and see if it works. So I kept going on my YouTube channel, one video a week, a lot of long form videos, started the LinkedIn game, and I found myself loving doing Excel teaching more than I thought. And now I'm transitioning over to Microsoft Copilot a little bit more because I really believe into AI. And here we are, almost a year and 2 months since I first started my YouTube channel. 2,000 followers. It's going well. I'm having some videos that are popping off, especially with Copilot, and I'm trying to make Excel fun again and Copilot. And so yeah, that's what I do. I love to make videos, and I try to make them a little bit less boring than what we usually see in finance and accounting. So I try to bring my energy and my color to all of that. So yeah, full-time YouTuber until since August of 18 of August 2023. So yeah, and I'm teaching Excel at a school here in Quebec as well. So yeah.
As a solopreneur, leaving some pretty tense FP&A with a lot of requirements and things that were asked of you. I'm wondering, I know the answer for me because I do a lot of side projects and everything. And I think about for companies, the kind of metrics and stuff they get. And then I think about my own, whether it's personal finances or business finances. I have zero metrics on any of that. And I'm wondering for as a solopreneur, like, you're watching your number of views and how,
Yeah.
the monetization and all that. But did you take anything from your corporate and startup FP&A, and do you apply that? Do you have metrics that you track and monitor and aspire to in your business?
Not yet, but YouTube Studio is actually next level on the metrics, and as I'm starting to get some data, I really think it helps me. Like I'm actually exporting stuff to Excel, making my own dashboards about YouTube. Some metrics that they don't have, like how many subs, like how many days it takes me to get 100 followers and stuff like that. And I'm actually thinking in a few years I might pivot onto this, like helping people get clearer views in their YouTube analyses, because you have everything. When did people like the video? When did people drop from this video? What's the age of your audience? Where do they live? Which city are they in? It's infinite. It's crazy. And you can compare your videos with all the graphs. Like it's been launched since 48 hours. You can compare all of them. You can group them. So it's really infinite. So that's really where I see my accounting and FP&A. It's in my YouTube studio right now, because right now it's kind of not quiet, but it's still early in my journey. So I don't have like employees. I don't have like velocity tracking or whatever, or cash burn. I mean, of course, it helped me a lot for my budgeting and my financials overall, and number of leads and all of that. And I think where it actually helped me the most is all these interactions I got with the VP of marketing, helping her with her budget, learning what a lead is, what is the conversion rate, what all of this was, all of the sales. Like I had no clue. If I kept into typical accounting, corporate accounting, I would say, with the debit and the credits, I will still probably have no clues of what's a lead and all of this. But now I understand a little bit better. What's a email marketing? What's a lead magnet? What's, all of that was part of my day to day before. So I really think that's where I really, really get some insights. Like, no, I know what's a churn rate and all of that. So I really feel that's where it helped me, like being more into the marketing, because we're analyzing the results of the campaigns and all of that. So yeah, that's really where it's helping me.
Again, going back to startup world, I always say that if you successfully survive the startup world, you're basically getting an MBA, but you're not getting presented the stuff in a friendly classroom and case studies and all that. You're out in the real world doing it, but you are way more than if you are in a big company where you're kind of stuck in your lane and you don't see all that. At least you get exposed to everything in the startup world.
Oh yeah, even when we did some household improvements to the office, I was building those furniture. So that's the all kind
Yep.
of skills
Yep.
you're getting in a startup.
Yeah. So, you're doing the Excel courses and you mentioned Copilot, and everybody's kind of got their opinions on where Copilot is right now. And I'm not looking to slam anybody or anything, anything on the show, but I think from us talking before the show, I think you and I share similar passions and we have a similar vision. an understanding of how AI is going to change FP&A. And I'm curious, Copilot or ChatGPT or Gemini, pick your large language model of choice. But how do you see? I guess two questions. How do you see that changing finance and accounting and how we work? And when you're talking to people right now in your videos and in your courses, how are you explaining AI to them and what the functionality of it?
I mean, I was early adopter of ChatGPT back with the actual M&A. We were just talking. It was my first time going through an M&A. So what's your first reflex? Like, I didn't even have the reflex to go to ChatGPT, but like, what's the top 10 question that I'm getting asked in an M&A? So you put this in Chat GPT, and it actually gave me some ideas on how to prepare well for this M&A. So that was in March of 2023. Chat GPT came out somewhere in 2022, and I found it like amazing. Like, and even my boss, I remember he told me, "Oh, that's great. You thought about that?" I was like, "Yeah, I thought about that." Uh, so yeah, that's one thing. As it's evolving, and you mentioned Copilot a little bit, I really feel like it's your assistant, like your copilot, to see deeper in the data. Of course, it won't replace. I don't think it's going to replace any CPA. Maybe more of the data entry level. We see Microsoft coming up with Copilot for Finance, helping you with the bank statement reconciliation. We're not at a point which is really, really amazing or flabbergasting right now. But I think if you will have asked me this question last Sunday, just one day before they announced GPT 4.0, my answer would have been completely different. But I tried lately to just put a chart into GPT 4.0 and just straight up a little prompt. Can you analyze that for me? And it was crazy. It gave me the year over year analysis. It gave me the trend. It gave me the recent decline. It gave me seasonality. So every fourth quarter, like the last quarter of a year, there was a boom, and I was legit flabbergasted. So I really see it helping teams, like, just a quick draft, just like it's working right now for the emails. Yeah, like you're gonna draft an email, you just put your bullet points in there. Of course, it's not perfect. It's giving you all these words: unlock, unveil, all those weird words. When you're just talking about Excel, you're like, slow it down a little bit. So yeah, that's how I see it. In finance, it's going to be there, and you're going to have to embrace it. And we see tools that are, I'm pretty sure Tableau or Power BI will eventually have its Copilot. I think it's announced, but like Tableau is going to put some AI in there. Hey, have you thought about that? And it's going to learn from your prompts and stuff. It's going to be some hell of a change. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty nice. And how do I explain it right now to people? I think there's a big work of awareness to do right now, because just I was giving a class at the school here in Quebec yesterday, and it was government people, and I was like, do you know Copilot? And she's like, no. And I'm like, do you know Chat GPT? Because no, it's been there for a longer time. She's like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, you don't even know Chat GPT. So we have a lot of progress to do, and when it's going to be in everyone's end, I think it's going to be two things: dangerous but very, very powerful at the same time. So that's where we need to do an education of how to use it, and not take straight up copy paste and like paste it even with the "I hope you like my answer" at the bottom when you prompt it. So I still see a lot of this stuff. So when I explain AI to people, I'm still doing some kind of awareness. I'm like, here's what's possible to do. Here's a V1, and I'm comparing to internet, and I'm a little bit young for that, but like I was playing Diablo 1 back then, and my mom would just pick up the phone and it will break my internet, and see so
Yeah.
much progress we did. And now I'm
Yeah.
talking to people like in United States and Australia, and there's like no delay. So that's how I see AI right now. Like it's still in preview mode, but like what we saw GPT 4.0 on Monday, it just blew my mind, and was like, that's really going to change corporate world in a good way, I hope. I think, and we'll have to embrace it. But right now I'm doing more of awareness, and into the FP&A world, I really see like where it can analyze your charts, help you brainstorm, help you prepare for a meeting. Hey, I have a meeting with the CFO of this company. Could you give me a 2-3 liners of this company? Because I don't have time to go on Google and go through all of his website and all the podcasts he went to, and I want to get prepared for this meeting. So I really think it's really powerful, and it's going to be even more powerful in the near future.
Yeah, I think as we record this, 4.0 was just released a couple days ago. I've actually taken some time and gone in a little deep on that. And I was telling you earlier, I did a scenario analysis where I
Yeah.
uploaded 3 years of full financial statements, and then had it, like you did with the chart, had it identify seasonality trends, all that, do a full breakdown, and basically, like I would to a junior analyst, I just handed it the financial statements, said spit this out. But then one thing that I've noticed, and I've been to limited success, like you said, we're
Yeah.
still in the early stages of this, but I've had ChatGPT through that data analysis tool do forecasts for me. So regression forecast, it's fine with. But if you try to get into some more complicated forecasts like ARIMA, or this we're using SARIMA, with the seasonal variations in there, and I'm seeing 4.0 has more reasoning capability, because it actually, unlike the kind of the one-shot stuff we were getting before, it has a whole process where it goes through the steps it's going to do, shows you the code, and then goes through and does it. So that says, I think that there probably is not enough understanding yet of how significant the change between ChatGPT 4 Turbo or whatever to 4.0 is. And we're getting closer and closer to where this is actually usable in a production environment. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Towards the end of the show, and I do always like to ask, kind of get a little bit more on the personal side with our guests, to remind everybody that we're all human. We're not like the AIs. We have lives outside of our FP&A world.
Yeah.
So I guess a question we always ask: what's something that not many people know about you? Maybe something that they couldn't find just by looking you up online, or
Yeah, that's really geeky. I mean, I did mention it at the beginning of the show, but I was playing video games on Twitch before, so filming yourself while gaming. And as you can see here, I have World of Warcraft boxes, and I'm always shy to say that. I don't know if but it made me who I am, right? But I have probably more than 20,000 hours played to this game, and I started. I was 12 years old. I have older siblings, so, my older brother, and they got me into this. I was 12 years old, and there was a command in the game /played where actually gave you the number of minutes or hours you were online. And I had so many characters, and back in 2008 I had only on one character 150 days, and that's almost 20 years ago. So I can't imagine. I'm probably at 20,000 hours. That's really nerd, but that made me who I am. It made me learn English because my main language is French. It made me a lot of friends, online friends that are still friends to this day. I met people. So it really changed who I am. It taught me the economy, because there was like some auction house in the game. It really made who I am. And now I'm making videos. And if I didn't get into gaming, I will not be making videos, or not be as good as I am right now. But yeah, that's really nerdy. When I say that to girls, they just run. And I'm like, oh no. So yeah, that's who I am.
Love it. Love it. Okay. And our go-to question, what is your favorite Excel function?
Oh, I think it's XLOOKUP, since I found that and it replaced every VLOOKUP that I had. It's just so powerful, and I keep learning about it every day. Like, we see new videos popping, like using XLOOKUP, and when I get a client ask me to help with Excel, that's always what I put kind of everywhere, hoping they have 365. Because if they don't, I'm like, oh no, we have to do with VLOOKUP or whatever pivot table. So yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, Dave, this was really great. Enjoyed talking to you, and I love the work that you're doing on putting out those courses, and great hearing about your background. So, thank you very much for being on the show and sharing your insights and experience.
Thank you for having me, Glenn.